Israel launches airstrikes on villages in Lebanon's Tyre region. For the second day, the Israeli army imposes a curfew in two Governorate, northern West Bank. And Russia reaffirms Ukraine joining NATO and the presence of Western troops on its soil are unacceptable to Moscow in any future peace deal.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The Israeli occupation military has launched a series of airstrikes targeting villages in Lebanon's Tyre region, coinciding with the one-year anniversary of ceasefire. Lebanese media reported 4 raids hitting areas including Mohammediyya, Jarmaq, Nab el-Tasa and Al-Aishiyya, with explosions heard across the Shuf and coastal regions. Israeli outlets said the Air Force targeted Hezbollah positions with heavy aircraft activity over the southern towns. The Lebanese presidency affirmed that the occupying state continues to refuse the implementation of the ceasefire agreement as it maintains its occupation of parts of the border area and continues its attacks despite a full year having passed since the agreement. Meanwhile, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun, during his meeting with the UN Assistant Secretary General, welcomed any assistance from the United Nations to help stabilize the situation and stop the ongoing Israeli attacks. UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennis-Plaschaert, called on both sides of the Blue Line to engage in dialogue to foster mutual understanding and advance security and stability. In a statement, she recalled that last year's cessation of hostilities agreement brought calm after 2 months of clashes and humanitarian suffering, raising hopes for more sustainable solutions amid regional changes. Hennis-Plaschaert noted that while the strengthened presence of Lebanese forces in the south and key governorate decisions provide a path towards normalcy, uncertainty along the border continues. Well, for more analysis, we move to Mark Summers in our newsroom. To you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mona. Yes, we are now joined from Beirut by the political analyst, Abdullah Neama. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. What objectives might Israel have in targeting Hezbollah infrastructure despite this one-year-old ceasefire? I believe you're not hearing me. I was talking about the objectives. What objectives might Israel have in targeting Hezbollah infrastructure?
Good evening to you and to everyone who's watching here on Q News. Of course, we know that Israel wants an escalation, and this is getting worse, especially after the Pope's visit is over to Lebanon. As you know, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had a call with President Joseph Aoun, and he literally told him to he told them that things are very dangerous now, and that Israel wants to annex the south, and that they want to take over Lebanon as long as Hezbollah doesn't want to give up their arms under the pretext of Lebanon's security. And so I think that the U.S. gave Lebanon a window to hand over their arms until the 31st of December, and I think that will be facing a war, except in one situation. If Egypt actually intervenes and they try to stop this and have some negotiations, and so this is the last chance basically, and so through negotiations in Cairo, maybe we'll reach, we want to have direct negotiations brokered by Cairo, and then maybe we'll reach an actual solution. This is as far as I know, but at the same time we know that things are also aren't going well between Israel and Iran, and now also between Israel and Lebanon. And yeah, this conflict between Israel and Iran is actually causing the Lebanese people to pay the price, and they are being harmed. And so here, and they actually, the Iranian people wanna marry from Lebanon women, especially to get the Lebanese nationality. But yeah, I hear what happened with Iran and the negotiations. I think, as I said, that we will be facing a war, but yeah, Iran really needs to stop intervening with Lebanon's affairs so that things can de-escalate. And we saw the talks in Iraq also, and they didn't stop. And things didn't escalate until they stopped the intervention. And so yes, actually Lebanon sent officials to Tehran so that they can get them to stop intervening, and that things can de-escalate in Lebanon. Lebanon cannot afford to go to war right now, especially because, as you know, what happened in the south. Israel actually attacked the south, and we have around 40 villages that have absolutely no buildings. It is an isolated zone now, and so maybe Israel will go and stay there now, using pretext of protecting Israel's north. And so yes, I think that Egypt's foreign minister came to Lebanon under Egypt's initiative to negotiate with Israel. And as far as I know that the Egyptian foreign minister has the green light from Iran. When Hassan Rashad came to Lebanon and he met with Hezbollah and with Israel, and he actually proposed some points to reach negotiations, but Hezbollah didn't accept. And so now when the foreign minister came, actually, as I said, he had green light from Iran. And so I think that if Hezbollah doesn't disarm or accept negotiations, then this means that Iran actually will be harming Lebanon, not benefiting them with this intervention. And Lebanon will be the one paying the price here. And so this is a very dangerous phase here. And so yes, as we saw, President al-Sisi called President Joseph Aoun and told them that this is the last chance before we go to a full-on war. We don't have time, and you need to have a response by this week. And so yes, we'll be waiting and we'll see what happens.
So how are these repeated airstrikes affecting the stability of the ceasefire?
Of course, the resolution 1701 isn't in force anymore, and now Israel actually carried out around 15 strikes, and so all of these strikes are actually some kind of pressure on Lebanon and the Lebanese people. But yeah, as I said, the Lebanese people are the one who are harmed and who are bearing the consequences of this. And yeah, Hezbollah doesn't want to give up their arms because Israel still has control of the 5 points that they have taken over. But at the same time, Israel doesn't want to withdraw until Hezbollah disarms. And so in the middle of all of this, the Lebanese people are caught in the middle. And yeah, as you know, there are actually contradicting opinions here and approaches in Hezbollah. Half of them want to give up their arms, and then half of them doesn't want to. And so and also Iran is now intervening, as I said, and we don't want they're not really clear about what they want to do. And so and Israel now doesn't want this. They don't want Iran's intervention, and using the pretext of using the legal, and even if they actually kill them, this was they're doing. And so now we cannot just stay silent with everything that's going on. The Lebanese people are caught in the middle of all of this, and they are suffering, and we here have a double-edged weapon. We don't really have an opinion. We need to accept Israel's terms, or we'll be going to war. And so Lebanon will be paying the price. And I think that these strikes that Israel is carrying out, even though they are so broad and even though they're so intense, I think that this is just a fraction of what Israel will be doing after the Pope's visit to Lebanon is over. I think that Israel will escalate the tensions and will intensify their strikes. And so, yes, Lebanon needs to make up their mind. They need to accept Cairo's direct negotiations with Israel, or will be going to war, and Israel will be taking over the whole south, and it will take over in the sea and land. And so, yeah, we'll be waiting.
Well, you mentioned there Hezbollah not wanting to disarm. Could these strikes have an effect on Hezbollah's military capabilities, perhaps even increasing it? I was asking you about Hezbollah's military capabilities. Could these strikes affect Hezbollah's military capabilities, perhaps increasing them? I'll move on, I think, to the next question. What are the potential humanitarian and political consequences of these strikes? What are the potential humanitarian and political consequences of these strikes?
There are continued strikes. Today we have 15 strikes in the south, but today they had intensified strikes under the pretext that they are actually targeting and attacking Hezbollah's infrastructure. And even though the Lebanese army is more ready now, but the south, especially 90% of the south is disarmed. Actually, Hezbollah doesn't have any arms in the south, and so yeah, in the north they don't have. And Israel thinks that if Hezbollah has any arms that are near Israel's borders, this actually threatens their security. And so, yeah, Israel thinks that Resolution 1701, when we reached a ceasefire, they thought that Hezbollah has actually agreed to disarm in all Lebanese land. These are the conditions of Resolution 1701, but actually Hezbollah are manipulating things, and they said we agreed to disarm only in the south. And this is why Israel still has the 5 points that they have taken, and also having Israel stay in the south is what's making Hezbollah not give up their arms. And so Israel cannot just trust Lebanon if Hezbollah still has their arms, and Hezbollah won't be giving up their arms if Israel is still taking over the 5 points. And yeah, of course, we don't like what's going on, but we need a Lebanese state here, and we need a stable one. And I think that Hezbollah is messing with Lebanon's stability. And yeah, as I said, they need to agree to give up their arms, and they were the reason that Israel entered the south and took over it, because Hezbollah still has their arms and haven't disarmed completely. And this is not deterring Israel, but it is actually bringing destruction upon Lebanon. And so we need to understand why Israel is having all of these aggressions in the south, where it's been 50 years now of wars with Israel. And so Hezbollah needs to give Lebanon control. And yeah,
well, thank you. I'm going to have to interrupt you there, unfortunately, because we have to go back to our studio. Abdullah Neema from Beirut, thank you very much for joining us. And it's back to you, Mona.
Right, thank you so much, Mark. And now we go to the latest, rather we are going live to Washington, where U.S. officials are holding a news conference after an ambush shooting involving National Guard members near the White House. So let's go.
Since this horrific event happened, to my left we have the director of the FBI. We have General Leland Blanchard of the National Guard. Mayor Bowser is here as well. We have Frank Saldana of the DEA, Chris Hecht of DHS, Executive Assistant Chief Jeffrey Carroll of the MPD, Darren Cox of the Washington FBI Field Office, and a Special Agent in Charge, Samuel Ward of the ATF in Washington. Now, I want to provide you with on the tragic shooting that occurred on two brave members of the West Virginia National Guard as they served in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, today, as most families join together to give thanks for the blessings that have been bestowed upon them, two families are shattered and destroyed and torn apart as a result of the actions of one man. First and foremost, our hearts go out to the victims and their families. These are dedicated service members who were performing their duties in service to our nation, and they are currently in critical condition. They have undergone surgery. We pray for their well-being as they continue to be cared for in the best possible way. We have been in constant contact with their families and have provided them with every resource needed during this difficult time. The two National Guards men that we're talking about are Sarah Beckstrom, who's 20 years old, and Andrew Wolf, who is 24 years old. They were uniformed members of the West Virginia National Guard, and they were in D.C. to keep D.C. safe, pursuant to President Trump's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. They answered the call, they took the charge, they volunteered, they put their lives on the line for people they don't even know. And that, unfortunately, is becoming a reality more and more for the members of law enforcement. Yesterday on Thanksgiving Eve at approximately 2:15, near 17th and I Streets in the northwest section of the district, near the Farragut West Metro Station, two uniformed guardsmen were ambushed in a brazen and targeted attack. A lone gunman opened fire without provocation, ambush style, armed with a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. One guardsman is struck, goes down, and then the shooter leans over and strikes the guardsman again. Another guardsman is struck several times. Fellow guardsmen who were there responded immediately, engaging the suspect, neutralizing the threat, and subduing him at the scene. He was transported to a local hospital where he remains, as we speak, under heavy guard. Thanks to the swift and coordinated response of the National Guard and the Metropolitan Police Department, no additional victims were harmed, and the scene was secured within minutes. The suspect, he has been identified as Ramanullah Lakanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan who entered the United States under Biden's Operation Allies Welcome, a program following the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. He resided in Bellingham, Washington with his wife, and we believe 5 children. And we're working very closely with our federal partners, especially DHS and the FBI, to review his immigration history and the vetting process itself. What we know about him is that he drove his vehicle across country from the state of Washington with the intended target of coming to our nation's capital. As we stand here today, the charges that are appropriate right now are 3 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed, a violation of DC Code 22-401 and DC Code 22-4502. He will also be charged with possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. He faces 15 years under the assault with the intent to kill. We intend to continue monitoring what the charges will be, depending upon the well-being of the guardsmen. We are praying that they survive and that the highest charge will not have to be murder in the first degree. But make no mistake, if they do not, that will certainly be the charge, murder in the first degree. The Department of Justice, under Attorney General Pam Bondi, is committed to a thorough and an impartial investigation where we will hold this perpetrator accountable under the full weight of the law. Now, Sarah and Andrew volunteered. They came here to protect the people of the district, pursuant to a crime emergency that President Trump rightly declared in this city and other cities across the country. Our nation's capital should not and must not be a place where evil comes to commit violence, whatever their cause or motive may be. We should not have to live in fear in the nation's capital, especially by one who came here from a foreign country. And through a process that was so absurd that he came through and released into this country, as many were, knowing virtually nothing about his vetting. This is what happens in this country when people are allowed in who are not properly vetted. These guardsmen and all who are here to protect the district are the line that separates a civilized society from a barbaric one. They are the ones who stand for law and order. This was not just an attack. It was a direct challenge to law and order in our nation's capital. And the individual will be made fully accountable. And though it seems that we have been here before under President Trump, make no mistake, and the Attorney General, we will not allow this to be normalized. It will be confronted, condemned, and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Now, my message to the individual who committed these acts is you picked the wrong target, the wrong city, and the wrong country, and you will be sorry for the violence and the evil that you perpetrated in our nation's capital. And now I call upon the Director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thanks, Judge. I'll begin my remarks and end my remarks the same way, with prayer for our fallen soldiers, prayer for our law enforcement community, prayer for our National Guardsmen and women, prayer for our brave prosecutors at the Department of Justice and the offices of the D.C. United States Attorney. We must come together as a nation, especially on this Thanksgiving Day, and remember the sacrifices that so many are making around the world and around this country to secure our freedoms under President Trump's brilliant leadership and administration. I'll provide an update on the case as follows. It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI is leading out on this federal assault on a federal law enforcement officer investigation on many fronts. We immediately, with our law enforcement partners in the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, secured the scene, seized the weapon, sent in our evidence response team immediately to collect evidence, and started doing block-by-block canvasses. We are looking for and interviewing witnesses. The firearm and other materials have been sent to our Quantico laboratory already yesterday for immediate analysis. That work is ongoing. Partnering with the DC United States Attorney's Office, we have also executed multiple search warrants around the country to include the subject's last known residence, which is in the state of Washington. The search warrant was executed on that house last night or early this morning, and it is an ongoing process. All the individuals found in the house have been interviewed, and some interviews remain ongoing. We will not stop until we interview anyone and everyone associated with the subject, the house, and every piece of his life. There's also subject interviews, relations conducted in San Diego, pursuant to our ongoing investigation. So, as the judge noted, this is a coast-to-coast investigation being led right here in Washington, D.C., and this subject definitely did pick the wrong country. And we will rise together as a nation to show the world what we do here. And we are thankful that we have the Attorney General's brave leadership and President Trump's brave leadership and priorities to safeguard our communities. I also spoke to Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, last night, and Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States of America. That is what a broad-based international terrorism investigation looks like. We will provide continuous details to the American public while at the same time not jeopardizing the ongoing prosecution to ultimately hold this perpetrator accountable in our courts of law. We will provide as much transparency as possible, but as you can see, the breadth and scope of this investigation will continue. We will continue to hit the streets and hit every town and every house and talk to every witness. The men and women of the FBI and the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, to include the Department of Homeland Security, DEA, and ATF, are working tirelessly on this Thanksgiving Day. And I know just by talking to the leaders behind me that instead of going on and being with their families, everyone rogered up and showed up to work today. And none of them want to go home. That's the resolve that we have together as a team to bring to you justice for this heinous act of terrorism here in our nation's capital. And as the judge said, we will ensure that our law enforcement partners are out there in full force to make sure the world can enjoy our nation's capital. We will not let this heinous act of violence prevent people from visiting our beautiful nation's capital. And we will also continue to highlight any evidence that we can publicly. And as the judge said, this individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone, because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet anyway, in any way, shape, or form, this individual and countless others. And this administration has taken the rightful step to stop any further allowance of people with this similar background into the country. And we're thankful for that. And as I said, this investigation remains ongoing. And I think I'll turn it over to General Blanchard of the National Guard now. Thank you.
All across America this morning, families are waking up. They'll spend the day with their children, their brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, friends from across the community. There will be the smell of turkey, all the fixings. They'll watch parades, football games. They'll pray together. They'll talk about what they're grateful for. This morning, there are two families that will not have that opportunity. Andy and Sarah's families, they're spending the day reflecting on the past. And in the days coming, they'll reflect on and think about what could have been, what might be. Because regardless of the outcome, we know that their lives, their families' lives are all changed forever. Because one person decided to do this horrific and evil thing. And all across America, we are also reminded that there are many law enforcement agents, first responders, soldiers, service members all around the world who at best will come home, eat some cold turkey, open up Tupperware, eat what's left over, because they spent the day defending the American ideals, getting out there and getting after it on every American citizen's behalf. I will say that the District of Columbia National Guard, this task force, is more committed this morning than its directive to make DC safe and beautiful. Our resolve will be tested. It is being tested, but make no mistake, each and every one of these soldiers and airmen will meet and exceed the expectation that we have for them. They are, in fact, America's best. I'm proud of each and every one of them. I pray for each and every one of them today, and in particular, for these two young service members who are willing to go above and beyond and pay whatever price our nation asks of them. I ask every American today to keep them in their thoughts and prayers as you go about your day. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Mayor, where's Mayor Bowser? Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I want to associate myself with the remarks of our Adjutant General from the D.C. National Guard. I want to be very clear what the judge and everyone has reported here. Somebody drove across the country, came to Washington, D.C. to attack America. And that person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. These young people should be at home in West Virginia with their families.
ATF, anybody? DHS? Anyone? Okay. I also want to say that both Sarah and Andrew, I believe, were sworn in less than 24 hours before they were shot on the street in Washington. Any questions? You know, as the directors indicated, this is a fluid investigation. People are working around the clock. It's too soon to say what the motive is, but there are definitely areas that we're looking into, but not ready to say.
All right, that was a press conference by the Washington, D.C. District Attorney and some of the officials speaking about the abouts of the shooting that took place near the White House. The district attorney praised the National Guards in defending their own city and protecting their own country while sacrificing their lives, and offered condolences to the families of the deceased. She also spoke about the abouts of the incident, noting that the suspect was an Afghani migrant who came from an area that was out of Washington, D.C. until he reached this area and made his heinous crime, so described by the officials. On his part, the FBI director said that the investigations into the incident will continue, and that there have been multiple such warrants executed, and that perpetrators will come to justice. And also the National Guard chief said that they will continue to safeguard and protect their own city, and that the mayor also vowed to prosecute the perpetrators. Right, back to our bulletin. For the second day, the Israeli army has imposed a curfew in two Bas governorate in the West Bank amid a heavy deployment of its forces in most areas of the governorate located in the Northwest Bank. The Palestinian Prisoners Club stated that the Israeli army continues to raid many citizens' homes in most areas of the Tobas governorate, detaining others and taking them to field interrogation centers, with the number of detainees so far exceeding 100. And moving on to Russia, where Russian officials have restated that Ukraine joining NATO and the presence of Western troops on Ukrainian territory remain unacceptable to Moscow in any future peace settlement. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova accused NATO of attempting to pull Ukraine into its security structures, arguing this poses a direct threat to Russia. Her comments come as discussions continue over what conditions might underpin potential negotiations to end the conflict. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin, but before we wrap up, here is a recap of the top stories making headlines this hour. Israel launches airstrikes on villages in Lebanon's Tyr region. For the second day, the Israeli army imposes a curfew in Tobas governorate, northern West Bank. And Russia reaffirms Ukraine joining NATO and the presence of Western troops on its soil are unacceptable to Moscow in any future peace deal. Well, for more stories and live updates, follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews. From all of us here, many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more news and analysis on Qnews.